Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe here from my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And we've got a new Silmarillion podcast video for you all. Now, initially I wanted to post it on the two channels at the same time when the time came, once Brothers Arda was caught up. But it seems that people really miss having a regular Tolkien video on the Brothers Crin. So Brothers Arda is just going to have to catch up. And if you're watching this on Brothers Arda, this has been on Brothers Crin for a while. So one of the advantages of the all general fantasy channel that has just about everything also posted there. So you can feel free to subscribe there as well. And if you're watching this on Brothers Crin, months in advance. For our older Tolkien content, been moving that to Brothers Arda, although some videos have to remain on Brothers Crin. Like, the link will be in the comments section down below, so don't forget to click there and go subscribe to that channel if you enjoy our Tolkien content. The Brothers Crin will be continuing with Tolkien content kind of a few months in advance of Brothers Arda, but for older stuff, Brothers Arda's got a lot of it, and we are trying to reach 100 subs over there. But you didn't come here for that. You came here to hear of how the Noldor at last arrived in Beleriand, namely near Hithlum. Once they reach land, this alerts Morgoth's forces, and they begin to move past the arid Wethrin, the Mountain of Shadows, and end up confronting the Noldor in the Battle of Mithrin, which would be the second battle in Beleriand, which is called Dagor Nuin Gileath, the Battle Under the Stars, which is a pretty lovely name. They would be repulsed over the mountain and down into the plains to the north, the Grand Plains of Ardgallan, to the north of Dorthonion. Namely, the orcs were chased there, with the armies of Morgoth, some of them passing south of the Vale of Sirion, where Círdan would rush forth to try to battle with them. His forces suffered greatly, with Celegorm surging over the hills near Aethel Sirion to corner these men of Morgoth in the fens of Sereth. Círdan the shipwright, was saved, thank heavens, but the battle overall lasted 10 days, and the main casualty of the battle would prove a major one. All that aside, it has to be stated that ultimately Morgoth would not come out to oversee the battle himself, but would remain in Thangorodrim and lie in wait. Writers within the frame narrative don't know why he didn't come out. Basically, the theory is essentially that it wasn't important enough and that he felt confident of victory. I think that plays a factor, but I also think that one should not forget that Morgoth is also still somewhat wounded by Ungoliant because she was not impressed when he basically said, no, you can't have the Silmarils. And we gotta bear in mind he was massively weakened since his time as Melkor. As Melkor, he probably could have crushed her, but the problem is that he has since dispersed his essence into Arda itself, as well as into a number of his beasts and whatnot. Between all the dispersing he's done with his essence, has left Morgoth in a very weakened state. And with the assuming of the name Morgoth, this also weakens him, as he has now got a mortal name of sorts, which ties him further into the narrative of Arda in universe. So he's tied more and more to the essence, in a way, of the mortal realm, the physical world. So he's basically screwed. This allowed Ungoliant, who has also been powered up by the power of the two trees, which gives her a lot of firepower that was initially in Nienna and Yavanna, and she is obviously stronger than Morgoth at that point. And it's not till the Balrogs come to the rescue that they're able to fight her off. The trouble is, this means that Morgoth is wounded, I would argue, by the time of this battle, so even if he wanted to help, he might not be able to immediately. That said, why would he? When Gothmog, the Lord of Balrogs, the one leading the forces of Morgoth, is more than formidable enough to kind of stamp out this problem, so to speak. Now, this is not to say that Morgoth was not involved in the battles in any way. No. He is massively involved, mostly as an armchair general. Feanor gets the brilliant idea to charge forward when the enemy pretty much does a false retreat. To put it quite bluntly, Feanor is a terrible general and not a very impressive warrior. But when the enemy seems to fall back before him, he grows arrogant, because of course he does. He's the most arrogant of the Noldor. That's not me bad-mouthing. That's me stating a fact. And Feanor charges and is mortally wounded by Gothmog, at which point his sons charge forward to try to rescue their father, chase away the Balrogs, because Feanor is not a warrior by any means. His sons are. Each of them, for the most part, represent a different aspect, in a way, of the warrior archetype, especially Maethros. Maglor is not really a warrior archetype. I'd argue he's more a magician archetype. But other than him, I'd argue the rest are mostly warrior archetypes. This basically gives them a lot of advantages over their father in battle. That being said, Maglor does have warrior-esque aspect to him, because let's not forget that most of the magician archetypes in Tolkien's world are also kind of warriors. See Gandalf. That aside, Feanor in a way represents more the priestly king, and yes, he is a shadow archetype who gives into his insecurities, thus he's both the masochist and the sadist. In marked contrast to the warrior king of Fingolfin, and arguably, Fingolfin in many ways is a far greater monarch than Feanor ever was. The trouble is, Feanor has always ruled with the I am the king, I can do whatever I want mindset, which that never bodes well. He just leads his forces. When he charges over Dor Daedalus into the ambush, really Maethros' generalship that saves the day and prevents this from being a complete and total disaster. So it's really Maethros' leadership that just saves the day and turns this from a disaster into, I don't want to say a victory, but a stalemate.
Feanor, the being of passion.
Because there's an aspect of him that's been poured into the Silmarils as though they were his ring, he is desperate to get them back. He will not be complete until he has his Silmarils back. But with the tainting and corrupting of them by Morgoth, in a way that's a violation of Feanor's own soul and spirit, so one can maybe pity Feanor for that. There's a lot to pity about him, but his untimely end is his own fault. And as you said, he's a being of passion. The worst part about him is that as he lies dying, he looks up to Thangorodrim, and it's best to read the words of Tolkien. In my edition, it's page 97 to 98 of the hardcover edition. Feanor bade them halt, for his wounds were mortal, and he knew that his hour was come. And looking out from the slopes of Irid Wethrin, with his last sight he beheld far off the peaks of Thangorodrim, mightiest of the towers of Middle-earth, and knew with the foreknowledge of death that no power of the Noldor would ever overthrow them. But he cursed the name of Morgoth thrice, and laid it upon his sons to hold to their oath, and to avenge their father. He knows that they will, no matter what, lose, and will condemn them, possibly for all eternity, fetching the Silmarils, but he gives no thought to them, their souls, or what they want in life, or to the fate of his people, as he condemns them to an endless battle with Morgoth. 3 shiny rocks. The trouble is, as special as the Silmarils are, Feanor knows this is a battle they cannot win, but he doesn't care. It's about him and his ego. Because of his pride, he cannot let go. So that I'm gonna argue, when he started, he was a hero, one with many flaws. Then he became an anti-hero, then something of an anti-villain. Now he's fully a villain. He has succumbed completely to the lure of evil, as he gives not a single thought to his own sons.
I commented earlier that he's a being of passion. That's what happens when you mix major oaths to blood oaths, divine oaths, and passion. It could render one blind.
Destroy them. Yeah, much as what happens to Achilles in the story of Troy. From the moment he bared steel against Fingolfin, Feanor was kind of doomed. And I would argue there was no helping him. He would not move off that road set before him, because to move off of it would mean compromise, something Feanor has never been capable of at any point in his life, in any capacity. It would not be until after countless eons in the halls of Mandos that by the time of Dagor Dagorath, Feanor finally learns to let go and smashes open the Silmarils to revive the 2 trees. I hope you all don't mind that we decided to break up the Return of the Noldor chapter into multiple videos. It just seems like such a big, eventful chapter that could not really see any other way to properly pay homage to this episode in the Silmarillion. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, as though you were Morgoth putting an end to Feanor's brother Fingolfin.